breaks the drought. Jack Aitken, Wheelan, they win at Indianapolis. What a day for Cadillac. AO Racing, number 99. They suddenly won on a tear in the summer. They are the team to beat right now. Certainly turn the tables.
Time for another IMSA Endurance Hour podcast. I'm Matt Yocum, and October is in full swing, which means spectacular Halloween fun. And AO Racing, they always seem to raise the bar. We'll check in with co-owner Gunnar Jeanette a little later in the show. But first, we're going to take a look back and also look forward, putting a period on the battle at the bricks and looking ahead to Petit Le Mans with winner Jack Aitken. And Jack, thanks for joining the show. Number one question, how'd you get the trophy home?
I carried it like a true champ. It was me and Fred on the same flight home, actually, and had plenty of questions, but like I said, small price to pay for the win. So yeah.
Well, since both of you had trophies, did it help going through inspection a little bit easier?
I was worried, some airlines, they get a bit funny about that kind of thing. So we distracted them with the dazzling story of our victory and then snuck on the plane before they could tell us we had to check anything in. So it all went smooth, yeah.
So, and then I guess the last question, where did you put it at the house? Do you have certain rules? Does Alexandra say, okay, you can put your racing stuff in this room, or it's just fair game?
I think she's pretty flexible. Yeah, the answer is the floor, though, which doesn't sound very flexible, but it's we have a spot for, it was meant to be the current year's or current season's trophies got to stay out on display. And then at the end of the year, we'd sort of clear the floor again and you'd start a fresh sheet for the new season. But that was 3 years ago and we haven't cleared out much. So I've now got half of our entrance hallway covered with trophies. So it's there front and center. But we're moving house in a couple of weeks, so they're probably all going to get shifted somewhere dark and dingy. Yeah.
See, I like your idea, though, because I started out early with my daughter. I said, okay, here's the deal. When a toy comes into the bonus room, a toy has to go out. Unfortunately, toys kept coming into the bonus room and no toys ever ended up going out. But when you look back to Indy, what is there one image for you that just you'll always think about that day, that race, that moment?
I think it was the scenes after the race when we got to victory lane. Obviously, I had the pleasure of driving the car in there, and
I liked how when you got out, you had a real nice, almost not a bow to the photographers in the crowd, but it was a cool gesture when you got out of the car.
That was me saying, where are my teammates? They hadn't made it there yet. And obviously you want to share the moment with them especially, and the rest of the team. But the whole team was basically there from what I could see, except Fred and Earl. So I don't know where they were, but it took them a minute to get up to under the podium. But yeah, the image that stays with me, I think someone captured it from above. There's a lot of suites in the sort of on top of the suites. You have a bit of viewing area, don't you? And people were filming down from there, and you can see we're all just hugging each other one by one. And it shows how much it means, because it's been a while since as a crew we had a win. And when you go through a spell like that where you're searching for that next big result, it can weigh on people, and it's a big relief when it comes. So that release of emotion and sharing it with those guys who I've gotten to know so well over the last 2.5, 3 years has been, it was really special.
When you look at that race, and I was talking to Chris Mitchum about it, and he said that your fuel save mode was absolutely incredible. He goes, I really feel like better than Scott Dixon type. And that says a lot. He says that was just such an impressive stint for him on saving fuel.
It was the biggest save I've had to do in my short career in endurance racing. Hopefully a few more to come, but it put us in a tricky spot, that the penultimate yellow with just over an hour to go, I think it was. It put a lot of people in a tricky spot, but we were in the unfortunate position of being a few laps short compared to some of our rivals. I think particularly we were worried about the 60 because they came in, I think, 4 laps or so later than us. And we were having the conversation on the radio during the caution, you know, can we make it? Is there any way? And the guys were saying, I really think when it's going to be too tough. You know, it looks like we're going to need a splash or we need a yellow. And we sort of got the ball rolling with the restart. The pace was good. I had the 25 behind me and I thought, let's just see what we can do. And they were feeding me the numbers on the radio, communicating pretty much every lap. And I was just trying to bring that number down, 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 and at the same time keep the brakes alive, because when you do a big lift and coast, brakes get cold, the tires get cold, stops working properly. It feels weird in the braking zone. It's pulling one way or the other, and you got pickup flying off the tires because they're unhappy as well, and just trying to push that number as low as I could. And eventually I started hearing the voices perk up a bit in the stand. They say, yeah, it's starting to look okay here. I think we might make it. I was like, it just encourages you to do
And
more.
you could tell by just the difference of emotion in the voices and the edginess, so to speak, that things were kind of leaning back toward your way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was tense all the way to the finish, or until that final yellow, which sort of made it clear for everybody. But the language was changing, and you know they were giving me new target numbers, and it was getting easier to hit those targets. The 25 was dropping back. Things was just getting better and better. Then the 60 started coming through with Tom at the wheel, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. It's just like, he's going to have more energy than me. He's got a fast race car. I know Tom's a fast guy, having been teammates with him last year. And that was a really tense few laps where the energy started to, I started to spend a bit more to keep that track position. And it got a bit tight again, but it was huge fun. It's such a nice situation to be in, where you've got that challenge and you can meet it as a team. And seeing the release from everybody, not least Earl and Fred, when I eventually found them at the podium, made it real how much of an effort it was for everybody. Yeah.
Well, the buildup is always, you can win a Rolex for taking home the victory at Daytona, and this year also a champion will take home a Rolex, but you get different trophies for different races all the way around the world, and you're racing globally. But when you look at winning at Indy and the fact that there's so much buildup, there's so much tradition, next year will mark the 30th year that the winner and teammates and crew guys will all go out and kiss the bricks. But to finally, check that off and to see what all the hype was about, did it match or surpass reality, all of the hype building up to it?
I think it matched it. I mean, you know how special a place it is. Just when you walk up or drive up to the gates outside and you see the sheer size of it, and the history around it. And I'm lucky enough that I spend quite a bit of time in Indianapolis anyway, because of our simulator work, which is based there, just across from the speedway actually, and we can almost see it from the window of the simulator. And it was really, really cool to fulfill that dream, if you like, to see out that moment and kissing the bricks. And funnily enough, I was having a conversation with Earl and Fred before the weekend we were kind of debating, Indy's known for the 500, right? And that is the event of the year there. You can't really get around that. And for sure, the battle on the bricks is a big moment as well. But we were saying, if you win the battle on the bricks, are you really worthy to kiss the bricks? Does that still count? And we were like, yeah, I guess it does. I mean, I'm not sure. And we all agreed that if we win, we're going to kiss the bricks anyway, because you got to take your chance. You can't sit there debating about whether you're worthy or not. But no, it's a special place, and it's one of the places on the calendar that it means a lot to win there.
So talking about racing here, talking about the season, and I go back to one of the images that stands out in my mind is that I know you started out in karts, but if you ever wanted to try dirt racing or go a dirt career, your slide and save at Watkins Glen was up in the air, in the grass, sideways, you name it. That was a cool display of e-ticket excitement.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a few of them over the years, like everybody, and in those moments where you start to see things go wrong, and in your mind you're registering that it's now kind of getting out of control, and you do what you can, but ultimately a lot of it comes down to luck, and that I was quite lucky that day. So, you know, it was not fun seeing that huge, because the curbs at the bus stop are not small. They're ramps, if nothing else. And I thought, as I was heading towards it, this could be an airplane crash. I was envisioning like jumping Dukes of Hazzard style towards the barrier on the other side, and it was still a big hit. But it was, more the way that the car bounced when I landed that sent it sideways. And as I was gathering it up, the first thought was, oh my God, I'm going to hit the wall. I'm such an idiot. The second thought was, I might get away with this. And then the third thought was, someone's going to hit me from behind here because I'm going so slow now. But I survived all of it. So, like I said, I was very, very lucky. And it looked cool, but probably won't try and repeat that. Not one of my finest moments on the racetrack, but it's a lot of fun trying to throw these cars around on the track and then gather them up afterwards. They've got a lot of weight to them. They've got a lot of power. Certainly got a lot of downforce as well. But when it goes wrong, because they've got that weight to them, you have to act so fast to make sure that it doesn't end in the wall.
Well, you mentioned the Dukes of Hazzard. So if you could go back and they were going to do, Dukes, 2025, which one, Bo or Luke, would you want to be?
You put me on the spot here because I can't admit that I'm a Dukes of Hazzard expert.
I mean, I would guess Bo just because he did most of the driving.
I'll go with that then. That sounds good to me. More driving is always good in my book.
And when you talk about teammates, those guys, they were great teammates and family. But when you look at your family at Action Express, I mean, number one, the team itself is a cool, eclectic bunch. Gary Nelson, who has 9 million stories that never get old hearing. You've got Ian, who is extremely funny in moments, but he always has that so serious, he's got a list of 49 things in his mind that he wants to try to check off. So he's always focused. Then you got Chris Mitchum. And then just the crew guy. I mean, like Billy's been there from day one. He and Gary are the two most tenured employees at Action Express. So what was it like going to that fun bunch? Because, I mean, it's, not down and dirty, but they're very efficient with their resources. And, it shows by all the trophies they've won.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, the first time that I had contact with the team was when Peter Barron reached out to me, and they were looking for some drivers to fill the endurance role for 23 for the first season of GTP. And I was lucky enough to get a call from them and talk to Gary on the phone and have a few conversations. And I came on and did just the one test in Daytona before the season got underway. And I'd done a little bit of racing in America before in single seaters and Pro Mazda, but only I think 2 or 3 races. So I didn't really know the culture that much. And most of my other racing has been in Europe. And straight away, when you get to the track, things are just different. The paddock is different, right? The feel's different. The way IMSA does stuff is different to the European counterparts. It's much more open. Everyone is a lot more at ease, I would say, with each other, which is nice. From coming from some of the professionalism of that's not the right word. It's almost over professionalism. It's a bit sterile sometimes in Europe, and seeing all those doors open and all of those friendly faces, getting to know the stories of some of the guys on the team, a lot of whom, like you say, have been with the team since day one, basically, and some that are still coming on now. They've all got such a drive for competition. We have ex-athletes on the team. They're here because they want to win. We have guys that have come from all walks of life and just been around cars their whole life, and The most fierce competition that happens at Action Express, I'm pretty sure, is not on track with IMSA. It is on the paddle court. Orchestrated by Mikey, who likes to make sure that his talents are seen on the court, and the drivers sometimes will join him for a game or two, but we quickly bow out because it's just too much. They it's really cool to see. They're here for the same reasons that we are. They want to do things at the absolute best of their abilities, and like you say, as a team, we probably run a more uh, you know a sleeker operation than a lot of other teams. We're pretty efficient with the resource, but the mentality is always we'll do what we need to do, and we focus on the key things. The workshop is not anything fancy. I don't know if you ever been
Oh yeah.
to the workshop?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it was quite a departure from the F1 workshops that I'd seen in the past, but it has everything we need. Not to mention a lot of trophies on the wall. So the guys, I've got absolutely nothing to say against the way that things are done, and that's part the American culture compared to what I was used to before, and it's part of the Action Express culture. And the two together have created an environment that they really feel like a family for me. That's why you saw such a release of emotion, I think, on at the podium in Indy, and yeah, would be more than happy to stay there for a long time and get a few more wins under the belt.
And the shop's out in the countryside in North Carolina, and there's great restaurants around there. So, I mean, it's a little bit like Mayberry meets sports car racing in a way.
Yeah, that's probably true. I've spent a fair bit of time around Charlotte, not in Charlotte, but just around Charlotte, around Concord and bits like that as well. And seeing the whole community, like the racing community around those parts, has been really cool. It's a whole new world for me. I live in Oxfordshire in the UK, which is kind of like the equivalent. Every third person that you meet is somehow involved in a race team, or is a supplier to a race team, or is a driver or a manager or whatever. So I'm used to that feeling of community, and it's nice. And Indy's a bit similar in that sense as well.
Yep, definitely Charlotte. It's like that. You would say where you're from in Oxfordshire, it's like the Charlotte of the East in a way, because everywhere you turn in this area, basically an hour from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then also BMW is going to be here in Charlotte as well next year with their prototype programs. So it's a lot here, and it continues to grow. And, we mentioned different guys on the team, and I really think Peter Barron could be in trouble if they change the safety regulations for pit lane and outlaw flip-flops, because he's the only guy, and I laugh every time because I'll walk through and I'll be going through their pit to jump out the pit lane, and I'll look over like, yep, he's got the flip-flops on, and it busts me up every time.
Yeah, well, I think he can correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure the last few years when we've been over to Le Mans, he's grudgingly had to cover his toes, because I'm pretty sure you're not allowed open-toed shoes in pit lane there. It's that was an adjustment to see his feet out every weekend. But luckily I get on with Peter and his feet now, so we can call each other friends and make peace with that. But it's quite a sight. Yeah.
Now you look at all your times, in and around Formula One, and then you come to IMSA in Action Express. Now, my T-ball, Pee Wee baseball, and Little League teammate Eric Rang is one of the transporter drivers. So he and I go way back to when we first were in kindergarten together. And I took a walk through a couple of years ago, and there is a hot dog rolling machine, and it's parked right next to, I don't know if it's a rocket espresso machine, but I'm like, wow, hot dogs and espresso. I mean, you pretty much have everything covered. Did you ever think you'd see a hot dog roller next to an espresso machine at a racetrack?
No, not in that combination. I don't think I was entirely shocked to see a hot dog roller at the truck like that. it just kind of fits in a lot of ways. The espresso machine maybe less so, but then we do get plenty of drivers coming and asking for a cup of coffee, so it clearly has its place in the world as well. But yeah, that was an early contribution from me to the team in 23 in my first year, because I like my coffee and I'm a snob and I'm not even going to hide it. So I thought we gotta upgrade. The Keurig situation is not going to work for me, so brought that over, and it's been living in the truck ever since. But yeah, and Eric or Rango is very accommodating to me. So you guys were in kindergarten together?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I'll have to
That's
show
crazy.
you. I'll have to show you
I
a
had
picture.
no idea.
Yeah. I've got a picture of us from our Pee Wee baseball group shot, and we're kneeling right next to each other, with the whole team. So I'll pull that out and show it to you. At Petit. Yeah, we go way back. Michiganders. So
I mean, I owe a lot to this man, because he's, at the end of the day, he's responsible for feeding me and the rest of the team, and he nails it. So it's probably the most important job
Oh,
on the
yeah.
weekend.
And the thing is, his longtime girlfriend, we also went elementary school together. So, when we do catch up in the off season, the stories we tell, go back 40 years. You mentioned about people like that are in your lives through the different chapters. And when you started out in karts at age 7, and you're racing, I always find it interesting where you can walk up and down pit lane and like, oh yeah, he and I raced together in karts when we were 8. And oh yeah, he and I, we're starting out in single seaters together. The racing world is so small in so many ways. And just like, one of your mates, George Russell, you guys race together through different chapters. And I always find that interesting, just how small, because you just think in your little area, but globally, every area racing globally, it's like that. Everybody, they can be quote unquote an enemy to, this week, but then next week you're sharing a car together in a whole different series.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you say, at the end of the day, it's a small world, right? So everybody seems to know everybody. There's a connection one way or another to that person that you don't know. And with drivers, especially when you're around that same age, you come up together, and it's inevitable that at some point you're teammates, at some point you take each other out, you hate each other, and then you're teammates again the next year, so you love each other, or you have to. And you go through the whole cycle with people. And there's plenty of guys in the IMSA paddock that I've known for decades even, which seems crazy to say at my age, but it's true. You mentioned George, who I was teammates with for a number of years, and went kart racing with when we were 10, 11, 12. Even before George, I was racing with Alex Albon in cadets when we were 8, 9 years old. So yeah, it's there are roots that go a long way back, and it's nice. Like, it's cool to see where people end up, and how wide that group of cadets that were karting together at 7 or 8 years old, how far they spread across the motorsport world, from moving on to do other things outside of racing to going all the way to F1. It's nice.
You talk about starting out, and karts were age 7 now. Your mom is South Korean, your dad is Scottish, you're born in London. So who introduced you to racing? How did you get bitten by the bug? Did you see it on TV? You went to a race? You went to a kart track for fun? How did it all begin? How did the switch get flipped for you?
I'm trying to remember what came first. I think it was just, so both of my parents are petrol heads, and we are therefore now a family of petrol heads. They didn't have any history of racing, although they dabbled in stuff like track days or karting or whatever. But really, they just like cars. So we would watch Top Gear every Sunday night in the UK when the seasons were running, and even when they weren't, we'd watch the reruns whenever they were on. And at lunch, we would watch the F1, and that was kind of the tradition we just always did. And I think I went to my first race, Silverstone, age around 6, something like that. I can't really remember. But what I do remember is walking up to the back of the grandstands for Brooklands and Luffield, which is kind of like middle sector now on the new circuit. But you can't see the track because the grandstands are so big. But walking up to it in that era of F1, you could feel the noise of the car coming through your body. So probably a bit like if you stand next to the Valkyrie these days in the IMSA paddock. You could feel the noise coming through and the vibration, and it makes such an impression on a kid when you don't really know what you're looking at, but when you can feel it and you're surrounded by all these people that are oohing and eyeing at the cars coming past, and they make such an incredible noise, and you feel that power. You don't forget that, I think. Typically, I was watching the race, eventually got bored, as 6-year-olds probably do, and then everyone gasped and shouted and screamed, and I looked up and someone was in the barrier having done, I think it was either Fisichella or Jarno Trulli or someone like that in a Renault. They barrel rolled into the barrier at Brooklands, and I missed it because I was looking down at my feet or something like that. I was like, that's the only interesting thing. That then after that, I went karting with some friends for like a birthday party. I can't remember exactly who, what, why, where, but I got the bug from that because I was really scrawny as a kid, really small, wasn't good at the other sports that we were playing at school, like football, rugby, whatever, athletics. I was none of those things, not naturally athletic, but I was small. So obviously when we went to the rental karts and I weighed 10 kilos less than the other kids, probably, I was flying. I was like, the next Senna. And then when they saw that we kept coming back, because I kept begging my parents to go back, the guys at the track said, hey, you know what you should do? Your kid, he could be the next big thing. You should sign up for our classes and come and spend all this money over. As I'm sure they do with all the kids. I say that ungraciously. It was at Buckmore Park, which UK listeners might know well, and they were actually a fantastic group of people who I still keep in touch with to this day, the instructors and the people that brought me through the first stages there. And I just loved it. I'm not sure exactly if it was the sense of speed or the because it was cars and I was really into cars at that age already. But I loved it and just kept begging to go back, and it was a hobby. Eventually my brother, who's a couple of years younger than me, Max, he joined and started racing with us as well. So it was a family weekend out. And there was all the usual, the ups and downs, the joy, the tears, the stuff like that. But it was pretty low stakes and stayed like that for a while. And I went through school and increasingly was like, well, I don't, there's no job that I really want to do, or I don't have a passion at school, but I really, really want to keep driving, which is, maybe not surprising to hear from a teenager who's, not, I don't know. There are not many teenagers that know what job they want from school, right? I guess, but they all want to be racing drivers. So I somehow convinced my parents that if I finished my secondary school studies and got my basic qualifications, I'd take a gap year instead of going to uni. And that gap year turned into quite a long gap, and we're still going somehow. So
But see, that says a lot for you though, but also for your parents, because so often you'll hear drivers say, well, I got to about 12, 13, and then I moved to Italy and I was racing for this karting team and, dropped out of school, and it was all about, being a part of this super team so I can try to go to the next level. And staying in school, do you feel like, today that was definitely the right, choice? Because besides the education part, it was also the maturity part of that. When you graduated and you were going to have that gap year, still looking ahead possibly to university and continue on with your education, but it got you to another place and you'd gone through a lot of education that, some others, didn't get just because they bailed early, chasing that dream just like you were.
yeah, it's a tough question. It's happening in sport everywhere at the moment, isn't it? That push to bring kids in younger, to make them more professional from an earlier age. Sorry. It's easy to look back and say, well, clearly you had the opportunity and maybe the talent and skills or whatever to make it. So if you committed even earlier, you could have done it even better. But like you say, there's a lot you can take from school that, I have to be pretty thankful for. I was lucky to go to a pretty good school in London, and as much as a kid can, I enjoyed it. I had a really nice group of friends that I'm still friends with to this day. Even some of the teachers I'm still friendly with, and they've taken an interest in the racing. And although I'm never going to use maybe some of the stuff that I studied, it did, still teach me a lot about being a person in the world today, and how to work with the people that I work with now. And it's, while it's easy to say in hindsight that you're going to make it, and a bit of extra testing or practice might have made a difference. Obviously, when you're parent to a young teen or even a younger kid, it's a huge risk to take. You're gambling with your kid's future, and yet any early leg up that you can get does make a big difference, unfortunately, in sport. So I don't like to be put on the spot when parents ask me that question of what to do with their kids that are coming up through the racing ladder. It's really, really tough. I generally would always advocate for at least getting some qualifications and having some of those life experiences of being a normal kid at school, and letting the love for the sport grow through the teenage years, and making sure that's really what you want to do, and building on the passion. Because as well, if you get not forced, but if you try to make it your job too early, I think there's always a risk that you take away some of the enjoyment as well. Because that adds a lot of pressure. If you take anything that you love and turn it into a job, there will always be parts of that love and that passion that turn into stuff that you don't enjoy, and stuff that you slowly might resent, parts of the job that you don't want to do. So I don't know, a good example is simulator work. When people look at the machines that we get to drive on those simulator days, the way that they fly up in the air and they're twisting all around, and you drive any track you want, any car you want, for as long as you want, there's no crash damage. It's an amazing toy. And it is. The first time you get to drive them, you're blown away. It's incredible. And the same thing when I first did that job for F1 teams. I loved it. You could have left me in that room for days. And they did, because there was a lot of work to be done. But eventually you get tired of it. You're in a dark room for a full working day, sometimes more. It's hot, it's claustrophobic. You get sore eyes from staring at a screen all day. You almost never see real daylight because they're buried deep in a basement somewhere. And it's relentless because you're just doing lap after lap after lap. The car's perfect, the track's perfect. You have to be perfect. It's really hard, grinding work. So sometimes I catch myself saying, I hate the sim. It's really hard. And people give you that look of, do you know what your job is? And they're like, yeah, actually, sorry, I love it. I love it. It's great.
And you look at your body of work, and you mentioned, doing that, on the F1 level for both Renault and Williams. When you look at those two chapters in your book, what did it teach you the most? How did you grow as a driver because of your time around both of those F1 programs?
I think it undoubtedly helped a huge amount. The level that those teams have to operate at, and the amount of resource that they can throw at anything is amazing. So, what I mean by that is, when I was in the Renault Academy, now Alpine, they taught me a huge amount, not just about driving. They taught me about how to take care of myself as a professional athlete living alone, as a 17 or 18-year-old who was figuring a lot of that stuff out, how to speak to people in the team, how to figure out your feedback, how to understand some of the stuff engineering wise, and technically what's happening with the car, even if you don't need to know all of it. And then just drifting around the factory and getting to talk to people who specialize in jobs that require the absolute best all of the time, and it's about performance, and getting to know them, seeing how they work. That's the kind of work experience that is incredibly valuable, and it was it was fantastic. I loved it. And yeah, of course, the on-track stuff as well. They help you with that. You get to go testing in their cars. You get to hang around on the race weekends and see how the best guys in the world are doing it. And yeah, it was huge. It makes me a better driver for my feedback, for the way that I can ask the questions of how do we go faster, which stones to turn over. And you see it with the guys coming through now, guys and girls like Fred, who's come from and still is an F1 background, and the level only gets even higher, you know, and the age gets lower, and it creeps earlier and earlier as well. So it's a great education to have, for the lucky few that can get it.
You mentioned Fred, and usually most teammates, they live several countries away, you know, if not different time zones. For you and Fred, you guys live what, 20, 30 minutes away from each other?
Yep, yeah. He's the next big town over from me, basically. And we moved there for the same reasons. I moved originally to Oxford to be close to the F1 teams of Renault, Williams, those places, and it kind of makes sense to be there because it's like Silicon Valley for motorsport in the UK. And Fred did the same for his role with Mercedes. So it's been good to have a training partner, if nothing else. And we like to meet up and at least keep each other entertained on long bike rides, or going to the gym and doing those weird neck exercises that everyone stares at you for. And yeah, it's nice.
I love the picture you showed me of you two out cycling, and the look on his face. It was like, he was either getting ready to crash, or, you know, you had basically passed him and he was about ready, physically wiped out. I mean, it seems like you guys have a great friendship away from the track and fun times.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's the same with Earl. You know, okay, there's a bit of distance because he's stateside and we're in the UK. But any time that we spend together as a trio is a lot of fun. We have, I think, a good gel of personalities, which can't always be guaranteed when you get paired up with most of the time strangers. But Fred and I have shared a lot in common because he's sharing a similar sort of pathway that I went through a few years ago, and therefore we have a lot to share and a lot to talk about. Whether it's about the F1 world and, you know, the trials and tribulations there, or his exciting new foray into endurance and that whole world that he's just learning about now. And with Earl, it's apart from being a really funny guy, he has a wealth of knowledge, having been part of top level factory programs for, I don't know, the last 15 years, it feels like. Even though he's not that old, you know, he's just been part of so many incredible teams and brings a lot outside of the car to the team. So it's a really nice mix that we've got.
Well, the last time Action Express went back-to-back victories was way back in 2021 at Watkins Glen, and then backed it up at Road America. So you won Indy, go into Petit. Prognosticate where you guys feel your chances are. It just seems like the team had a shot to win at Watkins Glen, just didn't have enough fuel. Pulled it off at Indy. It seems like you guys have some momentum.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's like I said at the beginning, getting that result gives people a little bit of, I hope, confidence and momentum, like you say. It can take a bit of weight off people's shoulders, and I don't think people are letting it weigh on them. You know, as a team, it's been fantastic to work through this year, even though it's been results-wise one of our toughest in recent years. But Earl put it really well that we've been putting ourselves in the sort of spot to win a race if it goes our way, whether it was Watkins or Daytona, Sebring, if, you know, things had come out a little bit differently, and we were kind of knocking on the door and we finally got through in Indy. So all that we can do is go to Petit and put ourselves in that position again, you know, put a fast race car on the track, get some drivers in there who hopefully will run mistake free and do their job, and we'll see what happens. We'll knock on the door again, and it's bloody tough race, especially with the size of entries that, or number of entries that we've got in this year's edition. It's going to be really busy. There's going to be a lot of frantic multi-class racing. So, just having the basic ingredients to win is no guarantee. You're really going to have to be there and stick it out and execute. So we'll try and do that. And it would be lovely to finish the year like that, but we'll see.
Well, we talked a lot about your current rides you've had through the years, but let's go back to your very first road car. And we always love to end our guest appearances with, what was the first car they had when they got their license? So what was yours?
So I had I'm trying to remember the year. It was a pretty late, it was a late edition, like a 1990s Mini Cooper. So it was still the old body shape. And that's all I wanted really, was to have the proper Mini, as I would call it. And it also had the sporty 1275cc engine. And that's about as much as I knew about it when I was convinced that was the one for me. And it was red with white racing stripes and some slightly garish John Cooper decals on it as well, which I wasn't sure about. But it was awesome. That was a brilliant car. My parents hated it because they pretty rightly said it was a death trap and wanted me to get something with a bit more like crush zone to it. But I loved it. It was such a great car to have. I was still living in London at the time. And apart from being able to like nip into any small gap that you could see and just fit into parking spaces that no one else could, everyone was so nice to me, because people love those kinds of cars. And it was also the first car, well, it was my first car, but I started to try to do some of my own work on it. Didn't go well all the time. One of the I had the fog lights crap out on me at one point, so I was like, I can no, actually no, it wasn't them, it was the alternator, or something was, it was wrong with the starting process. So I was like, I can fix this. I've seen this on Google. So I cracked out the tools and started whacking away at it on my school nights. It took me 3 months to fix this bloody car, and all I had to do was swap out the starter motor, because there were a few false starts and I lost motivation halfway through and then came back to it. And yeah, and in London you don't really need a car, so it wasn't top of my priority list. Got it done, got it back on the road, and I was like, yeah, this is not that difficult, come on. Went to Wales with my girlfriend at the time on a romantic trip, and we were driving back from the pub one night and it was getting dark. So of course I went to turn on the headlights. And in the process of removing the radiator, as you had to with those cars to get the starter motor changed, and undoing all the clips and things to the bumper to the headlights, I'd somehow not put them back in the right way. And all was the sort of daytime running lights to get back on these narrow Welsh lanes, up and down, stone walls either side. I was like, oh, this is just really embarrassing and not good, and really stressful for everyone. And as we got towards home, I think I got some rubbish on the windscreen, so I went to wipe the windscreen, and of course the fog lights came on. Don't know how, don't ask me how, but yeah, managed to cock that up right. Anyway, it died a few years after I got it, because I was driving down the motorway and the front left wheel departed at speed. Didn't hurt anyone, didn't hurt myself, but after that my parents were not keen on me keeping it for some reason, so I moved on.
So I took the picture that I have of the car wounded along the side of the road, missing the left front wheel, and I showed it to Gary Nelson. We were sitting next to each other going to Indy, and I said, now Gary, this is the perfect example of when you're communicating with your driver and he says he's got a vibration. Is it a slight vibration, or is it the Mini Cooper wheel going to fall off type vibration? So see, I was trying to help you out and try to help that communication, with the team.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. I haven't had that radio call yet, but I'm sure I'm going to get it when I flat spot a tire next.
All right. Well, Jack Aitken, can't thank you enough for coming by and telling us some great stories about growing up and all the way back to kissing the bricks. just a few weeks ago at Indy. We'll see you, Petit, just coming up just shortly.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Jack. Well, AO Racing continues to raise the bar when you look at fun in IMSA WeatherTech Racing. And if you've been on social media over the past few weeks, you've seen some Halloween hints of something big that was on the horizon, and they finally have announced it. 2 exciting and extremely cool liveries for the season finale at Petit Le Mans. Gunnar Jeanette, co-owner of AO Racing, joins us now. So Gunnar, first, have you had a chance to go through it and look at all the fan comments after each social media post trying to figure out exactly what was going to be announced?
Yeah, I do a great job of lurking on our social media and replying occasionally, but no, our whole media team has done an amazing job with it all, and we want to get people excited, but not give away exactly what we're doing. But it is fun watching people pick up on the clues, and plenty of them figured out what it was before the announcement. And we like engaging with our fan base like that.
When you look at the designs, both of them just rock, especially when you look at just the contrast, the white and the black. It really is on fire on the 77. It looks great on Spike as well. But what is the design process? What has gone into it? Because so many people underestimate the amount of time in the hands that go through and touch this process, because it's so enormous when you look at the design all the way down through the merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, this has really been more than a year in the making. We kind of kicked around the idea before Petit last year, but with where we were in the championship hunt and maybe a little bit of superstition, I didn't want to go changing anything before the last race of the year. And the amount of work that goes involved into making something like this happen really across the board is enormous. And so we've been working, I would say, really hard on it for the last kind of 2.5 months. But yeah, there's a lot of design work. Then it's taking the design, getting it into 3B. Luckily, we've been doing both of the characters on the cars for a couple of years now. So it's just they didn't stray too far from the first draft, and that's a real testament to everybody that we have here that is involved with all the graphics and the vinyl and all that kind of stuff.
So when you looked at, okay, this is going to be a great idea, did you zero in right away? You wanted to do kind of like the Skull and Bones, feel, because not only did you do it to the cars, you did it to the logo and everything that's geared up for that weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the car liveries were pretty easy, at least to narrow in on what we wanted to do, and then to apply that to the whole program. Halloween gives a great opportunity to just get lots of different fun, creative ideas and work on bringing them to life. And we're really looking forward to, actually showing up at Petit and doing the autograph extravaganza and seeing how many people come in cool costumes and bring some more life to the paddock.
When you look at, doing the vinyl and the application process and everything else, which car took longer?
That's a great question. I don't go out there. And the guys definitely worked, and with schedule of racing stuff with sports cars, it's a little bit different than the NASCAR that is getting different liveries applied literally every week. NASCAR is actually a lot easier to wrap as well, because there's way more flat panels.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch guys wrap a NASCAR, they kind of just put a couple of giant pieces of vinyl already printed on it and then end up just cutting stuff out. Our cars, the Porsche definitely has more curves, and then you go to a P2 car and there's all sorts of weird shapes on that. So it's definitely way more labor intensive. So while I'm not out there watching the guys do it, I would have to say Spike, the P2 car, is definitely more difficult and time consuming.
I can tell you this from personal experience. People have no idea what an art form it is to wrap a car, because
Yeah.
Kyle Petty and I had a contest wrapping his Victory Junction car one year, and I did the right side, he did the left side. Needless to say that neither side lasted. They had to rip it all off, and the king came in at the end and he was just like, stop, you both are awful. Stick to your day jobs. But that is part of the fun if you're working with the team and having something top secret like this. It was almost like when Ford had the GT and everything was under wraps, and even the doorknob was a key, not a key card. And when you're having something like this that's undercover, that adds even more fun to all the different folks in the organization.
Yeah, and we do, really stress on that for everybody that's working on the team and also just, in the headquarters. And it's great that everybody is invested as much as they are, because they understand that the secrecy and the surprise just goes hand in hand with the cool stuff that we're doing.
A lot of times we do a broadcast. Obviously, it's for the fans and the viewers, but a lot of times we'll do certain things within the show that is fun for us, the broadcasters, that a lot of times people at home don't even know, but they enjoy the outcome. And for you and the entire team to have something like this, it has got to be fun, because it's almost like you're trying to one up yourself, because every time you guys roll out, an event or some fun aspect of it, it's a 10-10 on a scale of 1 to 10. And so for you guys, is that part of the fun, coming up with new ideas and topping something that you've done in the past?
Yeah, it's definitely part of it. I think, there are times and occasions where we'll have an idea of, oh, wouldn't it be cool to do X, Y, or Z? And it's like, whoa, we're in like a 3-week stretch of having 2 events and a test and this kind of stuff. It's like, we can just save some ideas for later too. Like, we don't need to do everything all at once. And then with, to your point, with everything that we have done in a short amount of time as a team, there are occasions where I think, gosh, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep on having these ideas like we have been for the last 2 years. So yeah, there's definitely a little notebook somewhere where some of the ideas are just going and stored for later dates.
Because you've got such an expectation from the fans. Is it almost a little bit of pressure too? Like, all right, what are we going to do next? Because they love everything we're doing. It's almost like a season-long story of different things that pop up, especially at the fan engagement that you guys do. Now, is it going to be DJ GJ rolling some tunes?
Yeah, one of the things on my my to-do list is to finish off my Halloween playlist for the extravaganza. But I wouldn't say that there's pressure. Certain fans are definitely more opinionated than others, and seeing that on social media and actually in person at the racetrack, it's good that that we've created an opportunity for a team to get people, invested not only in our performance, but as you said, the story that we're trying to tell both on the racetrack and with the characters.
And it had to make you proud and we talked about it at Indy, leading into just all that you and your team had done up to that point of raising the fun meter for especially, the coolest demographic that we have are kids. And when you see them go through and all of a sudden, and I saw a family at Road America, mother had a wagon with a kid in it, the father had a wagon with a kid in it, and I could tell that they were starting to get a little worn down. Like they'd already driven 6 hours, of a 24-hour race. And you could just say, I go, hey, look for the bubbles and look for and listen for the music. And the father turned to me and he goes, thank you. Because they knew exactly where I was, sending them. But that, you look at all that you and your team put into it. It had to make you proud when IMSA recognized AO Racing, with the marketing award.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and every conversation we have with IMSA and John Doonan, those types of people, they bring it up, and so it is absolutely nice to be recognized. But we're not doing it specifically for the recognition, so it is nice to be acknowledged, but it's way better sort of when you put so much effort into something to see the real result is, exactly what you said, the families, the smiles, the engagement. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're at an autograph session, we're creating a line that goes, an hour before the event even starts for so long, and people are willing to just stand there, when it's 90 degrees outside and it's sunny, and to make sure that they have a good spot to see the show that we're bringing for them.
So what is the rundown for the show? We already teased that, you're going to be spinning some tunes as the DJ, but what are some of the things that are going to be fun, for the kids and the adults that you have set up for the extravaganza?
Yeah, I mean, we always try to have little, I don't know, for lack of a better term, tchotchkes or little giveaway things, whether it's beads or different stickers or that kind of stuff. You've already mentioned the bubbles, so anybody that's there early, the kids particularly, like we give them the little bubble guns, and they can run around and shoot bubbles and get a little bit of energy out. The different characters, it's going to be the first time seeing some of the revised Halloween characters there, and we're going all in. So our team members are also going to be showing up in costume, and then just for the fans to get to interact with each other in their cool costumes, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
So we've got the cars with a cool, livery. Rexy and Spike, their costumes are going to be with the same theme. Hero cards for the fans.
Oh yeah. Everything we're going all in. After this, I've actually got a meeting with some of our staff about what other Halloween decor and decorations we can do. There's a lot of stuff going on a race weekend. We're trying to win championships and win a race, but you want to have a little bit of jack-o'-lantern carving and that kind of stuff, as well.
So you're going to have Halloween trick-or-treat stations. So that way, when you're waiting in line, I've heard that could be, also something that the kids are going to be excited about.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure of the layout yet. Just because of the limited paddock space, making sure that, how we set up the line doesn't infringe upon the actual race activities, and keeps people out of the path of race cars and that kind of stuff. So it's definitely still very much a work in progress. But yeah, I'm confident we're going to be able to put on a good show.
Well, you touched on it, and life is all about having fun, but you're there chasing trophies. So the fun portion is just added value. How proud are you, and what does it say about your organization? Because, we'll see teams win back-to-back, but to have an opportunity to win back-to-back championships in different classes, that takes it to a whole nother level for an organization.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm excited to have the opportunity to win the championship in the P2 category with Spike and PJ and Dane. We're still in the championship hunt on the ELMS side with the P2 program as well. It is a little bit disappointing how sort of some things have transpired this year with Rexy to be where we are. But yeah, I think we have a good shot to for sure bring it back up into the top 3. But then, to your point, my days are filled with going back and forth between trying to plan fun stuff and trying to make sure that everything on the competition side is where it needs to be from the top level down with engineers all the way through crew members and truck drivers and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a balance in that, and just trying to find right balance in leaning into the fun stuff versus making sure that everybody is still going the right direction for the performance side of things.
What has impressed you most about you won the championship last year with Rexy, trying to lock it in with Spike. What's impressed you the most with the maturity, the maturation process and growth of Dane coming in? Was he like the missing ingredient? It just seems like he and PJ, they're like brothers.
Yeah, I mean, Dane's been a fantastic addition to the program. I've known him a long time, raced against him, knew that he had sort of all of the ingredients back in the day. And then, 4 IMSA championships later, here we are, hopefully with the ability to get him a 5th one this year. So yeah, he's been a huge addition and benefit to everything. And what we really were sort of looking for with Dane is, really making sure that you're focusing on the things that win you races and win you championships, because it's I don't want to say it's easy, but when everything is going your way on a good day, like, you can get a result. But it's when things aren't going your way that you try to make the most out of the situation, that, really keeps you in the championship hunt. And so that's been really good. And PJ as a driver, you got to remember, he really only started doing this at this level in 2023.
I mean, he's a late in life racer. If there's anybody that's the poster child for you can do it no matter the age, it's PJ.
Yeah. And so, to start in 23 in the GT category, go to then immediately year 2 in a P2 car, like learning how to drive a prototype and deal with traffic and all that stuff. And already in his 2nd year, he got the most pole positions out of any driver in IMSA. Like, that's so impressive. And so, year 3 this year is really just the culmination of sort of all of those things coming together. And yeah, certainly hoping we can finish the year off and get that first championship for PJ and the 5th one for Dane.
Now, you mentioned that, you've driven in the sport, you grew up around the sport, so you've seen the magical periods where a team will come in and it's like everything they do, they just touch, it's success, it's magic. When you look at what you and PJ have built in such a small amount of time, do you ever get a chance just to take a step back and go, wow, I just cannot believe, championship, the wins, possibly, another championship, those are the type of things that don't happen often because of the cycle of racing, especially when you throw in about, an IMSA WeatherTech racing, you've got the BOP. So the line is always, flat, or they try to keep it that way as far as advantages go. So do you just sit there and ever get a chance to take a step back and go, man, I cannot believe what we have done so far?
Yeah, no, I mean, it has been a pretty amazing 3 years. I don't get too many opportunities to step back with how busy we are. With 2 IMSA programs, a partnership on the ELMS side of things, constant planning for, what is next and how we're sort of growing as a team and organization, because it's not all just like we talked about. It's not just the competition side. It really is, as sort of, I want to say, I like to say, but certain people here like to say the AO universe. So there's competition side, there's characters, there's a story. And so, like, my days and nights are filled with always thinking about sort of one of those 3 aspects. But that being said, the few opportunities that I can actually take a step back, yeah, it's totally incredible what we've been able to do. And, I'm just really hoping that it's just the start of the organization and what we're able to accomplish in motorsport. But certainly don't want to rest on any laurels or things that we've accomplished thus far. So it really is just full speed ahead.
You mentioned full speed ahead. You mentioned the 3 years leading up to this year. So what about the next 3 years? Where do you see AO Racing in the future? Same classes? Are you looking at other options? Where do you think we may go?
Yeah, I mean, it's been no secret that we're looking to get to the top class to race for overall wins. Certainly in IMSA and maybe in other series and championships in the future. So right now it's making sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Because the number one thing for us is that we're able to operate at the level that we're accustomed to, regardless of the class. So we don't want to commit to something before we're ready for it. And then we're really just looking for the right partner. And so we've had, many ongoing conversations with different manufacturers to make sure that we find a good partnership that can last a long time and something that we can build together. So yeah, I would like to say the next 3 years will be continuing to run Rexy and Spike with then a GTP car and a new character coming online, and certainly hope that we can fight for overall wins and championships in the next 3 years.
Okay, so you mentioned new characters. So now you've got everybody saying, okay, what could it be? And I can imagine how the message boards are going to be now lighting up. Well, a friend of mine who's friends with so-and-so who knows somebody at AO Racing thinks it could be this. So when you're looking at a new character, that creates a whole nother fun factor for everybody. So if you go GTP racing, it would be an entirely new character is what we might be hearing.
I mean, very, very much TBD, right? Like we don't know exactly how the everything's going to pan out for us yet. It was very fun. We did a live YouTube stream on our onboard at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and this whole thing on the chat came up with Carl the Shark, and
I saw that,
and and that came up then early in the first 6 hours of the race. So then there was 18 hours then of people talking about Carl the Shark and using Chat GPT to come up with what a livery could look like, and those are the things that are so fun. But yeah, I mean, definitely we won't commit to any character or livery before we know what the car is going to be, because just getting back to the partnership, like we want to make sure that whatever character we come up with fits with the partner, and it has to fit with the car. Every car has different attributes and characteristics that lend themselves to animals or creatures that might be living, dead, or mythical. So yeah, I mean that's definitely part of the fun process here, is trying to dig out all of the creative that we have in us to figure out all of the possibilities.
So you mentioned characters. Now, when I was a kid, the first Halloween costume I ever had was basically I was a little ghost. The next year I was a little devil. So, I'm not saying that, I wasn't the perfect child, but I'm saying that was what my Halloween costume was. But one of my favorites was the old Evel Knievel with the plastic mask. And of course it was in Michigan, so I probably had my snowmobile suit underneath it. And then in the 7th grade, my buddies and I, 3 of my buddies and myself, we went as Kiss, the rock band. And a buddy's sister, she did all of our makeup. So we were, we were styling and profiling.
So for you, Matt?
I was Peter Criss. I was the Catman, the drummer.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite Halloween costume, or a couple of them, when you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Top Gun growing up. That was sort of right when I was a kid. So of course I was a fighter pilot one year. But the most memorable one was actually a young adult costume. So a friend of mine's 30th birthday was in San Francisco, in downtown, and a number of us went as Spaceballs. So 5 of us guys did the whole suit, and we made the helmets. We got big street lamp bulbs and used a Dremel to then cut out the helmet, and we glued it onto like a bicycle helmet. And so we're going bar hopping in downtown San Francisco with 6 of us as Spaceballs. And yeah, it was absolutely hysterical. And funnily enough, there's actually they're working on Spaceballs 2 now. So
I know.
maybe I can dust off the old Spaceball helmet.
I always roll out, paying homage to such a great comedic movie. I'll roll out Ludicrous Speed every so often during the broadcast, just as a little bit of fun, just because of so many great one-liners in that movie. So
Yeah, they've gone to plaid.
oh, I know it. It's amazing, you know. And this is one of the sequels that I think, you know, a lot of times sequels like Smoking the Bandit, iconic movie. Smoking the Bandit 2 wasn't quite Smoking 1. And a lot of times sequels don't have it, but I really think this sequel is going to be fantastic. So, your first car. Our last question, always our tradition here, is what was your first road car? Because you grew up around the sport, car guy. So what was it?
My first road car was a 1970 Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, but it wasn't any normal Carmen Ghia. It had a Porsche Fuchs alloys in it, a 911 S seats, had a 911 5-speed, a big 2-liter Type 4 engine, basically a 914 engine. So yeah, and oddly enough, it was green, not Rexy green, but yeah, so I had that car for a number of years, and yeah, definitely memorable.
Well, Gunnar, appreciate you stopping by and giving us all the information and what fans can expect to see on track at Petit, but also in the paddock, so they can make their plans for their kids, so they can pull out the wagon and pull them around through and get ready for the autograph extravaganza.
Yep, we're very excited to see what everybody dresses up as and comes to Petit with.
All right, Gunnar, we appreciate you stopping by. And thanks to Jack Aitken and Gunnar Jeanette for stopping by and giving us a little bit of a preview, looking ahead to Petit Le Mans. And don't forget a programming note. The Petit Le Mans starts at high noon on NBC as we decide the WeatherTech Championship, crown all the champions at night, and we'll go to the checkered flag on Peacock. You're not going to want to miss it. For everyone here at the IMSA Endurance Hour podcast, I'm Matt Yocum. Thanks for riding along with us, and we'll see you at the track.